Mark Stein is a longtime news watcher, an author, and a columnist, and he joins us tonight. Why? I'm wondering this. They put their crack investigators on the question of who made this dumb internet GIF. Why not find out where al-Baghdadi is or something?
Yeah.
If you're that good at finding stuff.
Right, that's what your investigative unit should be doing. This guy is entirely tangential to it. The way things work on the internet is somebody sends somebody a picture, and that person emails it to somebody else, and that person tweets it to somebody else, and 37,000 links later, it's become a thing, and nobody cares who created it or what other content he has created. Even if you accept that Chris Cuomo's definition of hate speech and bigoted and racist and anti-Semitic material ought to be the standard applied across the internet. Basically, a major news organization is policing some no-name schlub's internet content and threatening to reveal his identity if he transgresses their particular standards. That's completely nuts. I mean, Wolf Blitzer has basically put a horse's head in this guy's bed. And I don't know how this happened. CNN was like the world's most boring cable network just a month ago. Now it's behaving more and more nuttily each day.
So, that's too good. So, but, I mean, they seem to have come up with this kind of remarkable standard. They said, look, we're not releasing the guy's name because it would be a threat to his safety, presumably his physical safety. Right. But we're going to release his name if he says something we don't like. Now, people are calling that blackmail. Right. I don't know if it's blackmail exactly, but it's pretty weird for a news organization to, in effect, threaten harm if someone doesn't do what they say.
Well, the name is either newsworthy or it's not. But he got the message. They contacted him, and he immediately takes down all his internet posts. Now, I'm not a great believer in anonymity on the internet. I get tired of being called out by some twerp who has, you know, some butch name and an avatar from Game of Thrones, but he thinks that I'm not being manly enough on the internet. I'm not a particular fan of internet anonymity. But this guy got the message. He understands that CNN is watching him. So that if he were to make another anti-CNN GIF, another anti-CNN tweet, then they would release the fact that he's got a $500 lien on his home for unpaid property taxes, or his car was seen last Tuesday night parked outside Madame Fifi's bondage parlor. This is a ridiculous way for a news organization to behave, but the threat of people like Chris, and the idea, by the way, of Chris Cuomo and other CNN anchors saying, oh, we're so relieved. At last, you know, there were physical threats to our safety, and at last we're all relieved because now we've got the goods on this guy and we can sleep at night and journalists are free to walk the streets once more. Get lost, you creeps. The 5th anniversary of the Danish cartoons, I appeared on stage with 5 other people. Of those 5 other people I was on stage with in Copenhagen for the 5th anniversary of the Danish Mohammed cartoons, one was shot at point-blank range, the other had his event shot up, and 2 people were killed, another was forced out of public life entirely, and the 4th had her family's restaurant firebombed. Those are real threats against media figures that go on in Europe right now. The idea that reworking a joke that everyone knows is a joke is a threat to Chris Cuomo's safety is the most narcissistic, solipsistic act of navel-gazing by a profession that is already so self-obsessed, nobody who isn't in the media can stand the media.
That's so nicely put. And the sense of humor is always the first thing to go. That's always the sign you've completely lost perspective. CNN has Ministry of Truth. Mark Stein, God bless you for coming on. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Tucker.
Let's bring in Mike Huckabee, former presidential candidate and former governor of Arkansas and Fox News contributor. Governor, Kristen was just talking about how our current president was talking about how the last president knew in August that Russia was meddling and didn't do anything about it. He said because they thought Hillary Clinton was going to win and they didn't want to rock the boat, essentially. Do you think that's what was going on?
It appears that it was, Steve, and the big question remains, why didn't the previous administration sound the alarm? Why didn't he send notices out to the election officials in all 50 states saying, be on the lookout for attempts to hack into your electronic voting systems? Why didn't he say to the entire nation, we have indications that information is being spread falsely about the election? He didn't have to say it was for or against a particular candidate, because we really don't know exactly what it was intended to do. But why didn't he say that? Because he didn't think it was a big threat. The best we know is that sometime in September he said to Putin, hey, you guys, cut it out. Now, that's it. That was all there was. And for us to now be acting like that this was the most amazing, biggest, colossal thing that ever happened in the history of American politics is absurd.
I laugh because the people are saying, why does the president keep bringing this up? It was one of the questions the press asked him. So, of course, he's got to go back there, even though he's in Poland on the cusp of his first G20 announcement, on the cusp of his first bilateral with Russia. That's what you choose to talk about. But in the big picture, I'm struck, Governor, because you're so politically savvy, about the president. A lot of people talk about the president's tweets and his approach, and they say it's so unorthodox. It's not like any other president. But when it comes to North Korea, Russia, Eastern Europe, trade, and missile defense, he's very strong, but he's no bluster. There's no bluster about the Patriot missile, no bluster about LNG, no bluster about the bulk up of armed forces and tanks at the eastern border. But he's doing it.
I think that's what's significantly missed by a lot of the mainstream media. They just fail to recognize not only the economic changes that have happened in the country for the good here in America, but you mentioned the Patriot missiles for Poland. That sends a real signal to the Russians. Stand back. You're not going to be able to just come and invade Poland. The Polish people are wonderful people. They fought hard. They put up resistance against the Nazis and against communists. They were the first to be invaded by the Nazis. They later were some of the most important ones to break the throes of communism in Eastern Europe. These are people who understand what freedom means. And President Trump has, I believe, spoken to their heart, to their character, their soul. But, Brian, you point out something I think is very important. This is not a president that says, here's what the limitations are, and here's when you've stepped across it, and here's exactly what we're going to do. That's good leadership because it doesn't tell your enemy exactly what to expect and when to expect it.
Governor, was it smart of him to go to Poland? Clearly the crowd loves him there. You saw Kristen Fisher hold up the magazine, and we know that there were invitations put up on the embassy's website saying, all Poland, come one, come all, come and listen to my speech today.
We'll rush in.
He did have messages. I mean, he starts this second foreign trip basically by giving a press conference there in Poland. He had a message for Russia, several messages to Russia. You're not going to have the monopoly on natural gas. He also had a message to NATO. I'm not going to protect you. America's not going to pour money into NATO. And Poland's not going to pour money into NATO. And you can't expect us to protect you if you're not paying your fair share, too. There were several messages, but going back to my original question, was it smart for him to start this second foreign trip there in Poland?
I think it absolutely was for a number of reasons, some of which you just outlined. But look, let's put it this way. I don't care if you're a politician or a rock band. You want to go where the crowd wants you to be.
That's right.
And in Poland, he's able to go there and say to them, hey, thank you for paying your fair share of NATO. Most of your neighbors don't, but you do. He can say something very positive, and I think our relationship with the Polish people is strengthened by this. And again, I want to say, the Polish people are an exceptional people. Their culture, they're hospitable, they're good to Americans, they're wonderful people, and I can't think of a better place for Donald Trump to begin this tour than Poland. I'm glad he did it.
How about the close-up of Mayor Rudy Giuliani? I don't know if you could see from your monitor, Governor, but we have not seen the mayor from New York City in quite some time, and he popped up in Poland.
So he's in attendance there. Governor, apparently, as we look at some of the live pictures out of Warsaw, they are there at the War Memorial, and they're going to use the story of the Polish resistance as a new rallying cry for the Western civilization. It's a monument to the 150,000 Poles who died trying to drive the Nazis out of Warsaw. So that's the big speech that he's going to give in about 20 minutes. One of the issues he did address, though, during the brief bilateral press conference was the whole CNN logo smackdown tweet that the whole planet seemed to have a meltdown over a couple of days ago. People either thought it was hilarious or horrific. Here's the president's answer regarding fake news. I want you to hear it and then get your reaction. Listen to this.
What CNN did was unfortunate for them. As you know now, they have some pretty serious problems. They have been fake news for a long time. They've been covering me in a very dishonest way. Do you have that also, by the way, Mr. President? What CNN and others, I mean, not others, NBC is equally as bad, despite the fact that I made them a fortune with The Apprentice, but they forgot that. But I will say that CNN has really taken it too seriously, and I think they've hurt themselves very badly, very, very badly. And what we want to see in the United States is honest, beautiful, free, but honest press. We want to see fair press. I think it's a very important thing. We don't want fake news. And by the way, not everybody is fake news, but we don't want fake news. Bad thing, very bad for our country.
It is indeed, right, Governor?
Well, if I had time to put on my Captain Obvious suit, it would be simply to say the reason he answered that question that the press is going to criticize him for is because they asked him the question. Right. So why are they upset about it?
You're exactly right.
Question.
He also said that he's been bullied. He said CNN says we've been bullied by this president.
Yeah, you know, that's really amazing when the television network is afraid of the president speaking to them. Maybe they should grow up.
There you go. All right, Governor Mike Huckabee joining us today. Sir, thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor.